Hey BrewTubers, happy Homebrew Wednesday. I want to first wish you guys a happy new year, obviously, and apologize for not posting a video last week. I wanted to have a little more material to talk about before I actually posted another video. And in the future, that's what it'll be. If I haven't brewed anything, or there's no updates on my brews or updates on anything else homebrew related or craft beer related, then I'm not going to just post a video just to get a video up. I really want to post, a video that has good content. So the first thing, before we get into an update on my barley wine and future videos that are coming up in the early part of the year, I got a beer mail from a friend of mine named Dan Edelman, who's looking to eventually open his own brewery with another friend of mine named Brian Duffy, who used to be a manager at a local bar here in my neighborhood called Brewed Beer Bar. So he specializes in IPAs, says Belgian beers and sours. So he sent me 8 of his beers, one of which was called Walk on the Wild Side, which is a sour golden ale, which is about was 8.8%, which is pretty high for a sour ale, but you couldn't really taste it much beyond the fact that I hadn't eaten much beforehand, so I got a little tipsy at the end. But then I ate something and had another high ABV beer. I accidentally recycled the bottle before hosting a party this past Sunday for a couple of my friends of mine who got married recently. But it was a pretty good beer. I'll post a picture here, show you what it looked like. And for that beer, he used mostly light malts, and then he used there's a new yeast company or lab on the scene called East Coast Yeast. So he used their East Coast Red. They're one of their wild yeast blends, and then some dregs from a Cantillon beer. I don't think he told me which one, but it was a really spot on beer. Spot on sour, so I'm really looking forward to his other beers. So we're gonna first, before I show you the other beers he sent me, I did refrigerate which one? This one, which is called Hot Sun Weiss, which is the oldest beer he sent me. Actually, not the oldest, but from the earliest part in 2013. This is his Hot Sun Weiss. It's a Berliner Weiss, clocking in at 3.6% ABV, which is definitely to style. And I do like Berliner Weisses. I haven't tried much, but I'm excited to try his version of the style. And since he is from Pennsylvania, I'm putting it in my Victory Brewing Company glass. And there is some yeast at the bottom, so I'm not going to pour that last little bit. But it is quite carbonated, which is okay for the style. I can definitely smell the funk coming off the glass and the lactobacillus that's used in the style. Definitely really nice lactobacillus, like doughy, slightly funky, sulfury smell, but it almost has a slight wild, almost Brett, like Brettanomyces type scent to it. But let's go in for the taste. Yeah, it's exactly what I like in the style. Some Berliner Weisses are really like sulfury, almost doughy lactobacillus flavor, and not really much tart. And this has just the right amount of that lacto flavor, plus the right amount of tartness, so it's really, really well done. So his brewery has 2 names. I don't know what he's going to settle on, but he goes by Jew Brew on forums and other stuff, but then his main brewery is called Farm Brewery, so that's his home brewery name. So on Facebook, his Facebook page, which I'll post a link, is Jew Brew / Funky Farm Brewery. So to show you the other beers he sent me, one that doesn't have a label, which is still bottle conditioning, is his Kolsch, and he told me to leave it out of the fridge for a few weeks and then put it in the fridge for a week or 2 to chill down and really develop. Then the one bomber he sent me was bottled in June of 2013 at 8.4%. Flemish Red or Oud Bruin, modeled after the Duchess de Bourgogne beer, which is a really good Belgian sour, Flemish Red, Oud Bruin, a type of beer called Duchess Elizabeth. Apparently he has a series called Elizabeth, and when I drink that beer, hopefully it'll be on camera, and I'll tell you a little bit more of the description of that beer. Then the next one is called an Outcast of the Islands, the 7.3% chocolate milk stout. Next, Smile of a Fortune is the 10.8% Belgian strong ale aged in rye whiskey barrels. And there's no bottling date on it, but it should be pretty good. 10.8%. Next, this beer we'll get to in a second. Then the next beer is called Anna Begins, because I believe he used the dregs from a Hill Farmstead beer, which is a Vermont brewery. He used the dregs from there and then some other Saison yeast to get this 6.3% Vermont style Saison, which was bottled in March of 2013. And then finally, the 8th beer he sent me, which I'm really excited for, is he aged this with oak chips that he soaked in Macallan 18. And this is a 12% Imperial Stout called Adam from 2012. So I'm really excited for this one. I might save that one for last, just because I want to sit and savor it. After I, tried a lot of his beers, that seems like the pinnacle, like a 12% Scotch. Oh, it's gonna be so good. So I can't wait, because the first sour, Walking the Wild Side, and this beer are amazing. So really check out Dan's Facebook page. I'll post a link below. He's a really cool guy to talk to about brewing, and I hope to do some more work with him in the future. But now, I'm going to shoot you over to some footage of my barley wine, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about this year. Alright guys, so I'm not going to be taking a gravity sample of my barley wine just yet, and I'll tell you about it a little more in a second when I open my fridge, my fermentation chamber. But what I've been doing the past 2 days, because the Krausen didn't drop like I thought it would after 2 weeks, is to slowly ramp up the temperature to about 70 degrees or 71 degrees Fahrenheit. So now I have it set, have the STC 1000 set at 20.5, which is about 68.9 or something like that degrees, with a half degree differential. So it could get up to 21, which is 69.8. So that's just below 70 degrees. So tonight, I'll probably up it just a touch more, maybe not a half a degree Celsius more, but maybe a few points more to get it a little over the hump of 70 degrees, closer to a standard room temperature in Fahrenheit. And one thing I did add, actually a couple things I did add, was I changed out the masking tape to just taping pieces of paper with clear tape for cooling and heating. It's not as neat as an actual printed label, but at least it's neater looking. And then I taped to the fridge a Celsius and Fahrenheit conversion table that I printed out off Google Images. And also, I'm decking out the fridge a little more by gluing beer labels. So I have a Bourbon County one and Triple Carmelier, Deschutes Abyss 2012, and a Celebrator Doppelbock. And here are the chips soaking in bourbon, which, because they're going to be soaking for longer than I would have hoped, I'm glad that I'm adding 1 ounce of fresh oak, because they're definitely not going to have pretty much any oak flavor left if they've been soaking for like 2.5, 3 weeks or more. And my solution that I've been using to close the fridge better than just cheap duct tape that I bought at the dollar store is this Gorilla Tape. It just costs $10 for this big roll, but it's much stronger and I've only had to change it maybe once, max twice a week, instead of like every day or so, because I saw that the seal wasn't as good because it was loosening up every time I opened it. So this is after about 5 days of holding, and it's still pretty good. I might change it today just because I'm opening it more as I up the temp, just to keep an eye on it. But yeah, so let's open it up and I'll give you a better idea of what it looks like right now, and then we'll close it up and go on from there. So I have 3 pieces of tape, one really low because the probe sticks out down there. And as you see here, the krausen is healthy. It's red. It's the the reddish color, reddish tan color, because the beer itself is red, which it's a healthy krausen. No splotches of anything on it. And then I have the probe well insulated with a lot of duct tape and paper towels, and everything looks just fine. There's a nice thick layer of yeast and sediment at the bottom of both containers, so everything's looking perfectly fine, and there's only a tiny crack in the krausen, but the beer is getting cloudy, so because there's sediment along these rungs, so I feel that it's slowly but surely gonna drop as I raise the temp. So we'll see what happens with that. If I have to leave it in here for more than 3 weeks, which the 3 mark is this coming Monday, because it didn't take off till the morning after I pitched, because of the high gravity, I'll wait. But for now, I'm hoping that the 3-week mark will be at the transfer. But if not, I'll leave it for a 4th week if I need to. But I don't know if I'll go much past that. But that's the update, or a closer look at the barley wine. And now let's go back to the regular scheduled Homebrew Wednesday / 2014 update. Alright guys, so for this beer, this is a bottle of my breakfast stout. The reason I decided to break out a bottle of it was because yesterday on New Year's Eve, I was trying to see how many bottles I had left, and I still have half the batch left, but I'm going to be sending some bottles out in trades. So there was one bottle that leaked a little bit when I fell over in the plastic bin I have all the bottles in, and then I opened it, I chilled it down a little bit, and I tasted it, and I didn't really like how it was tasting. So this bottle has been in the fridge for a week or 2, so I really want to see what a properly fully chilled down version of the beer tastes like, to see how it's aging, because it's only 5% or so, and it's not going to age as well as other home brews. And I over-carbonated it, as you can see here, with it spilling all over the table. So luckily I have tissues here to mop that up. But when I tasted it yesterday, on New Year's Eve, I didn't really like the aroma, but I think that's because of how much oxygen was leaking into the bottle, because if it fell over in a sided plastic bin and it started leaking, it definitely wasn't sealed right to begin with. But let's still taste this beer and see what we think. So actually this chilled bottle tastes perfectly fine. It's very coffee forward, not a nuanced fruity coffee like it was tasting before I carbonated it to begin with, but it's definitely a low ABV, medium bodied coffee stout with not much nuance to it. So I think I'm going to start just drinking this and sending it out, and only age maybe 2-3 bottles instead of a 6-pack, because now that I'm getting my temperature control under control, because I have the fridge, I won't have to worry about so many different factors in my brews anymore. And this was just a test of my new, my first batch on the new equipment, and it came out okay, luckily. and a lot of people like it, but I really, I really feel like it needs to be drunk a little bit quicker and not aged so long, even though it's a stout. Anyway, another thing that I'm looking forward to correcting in my brewing, which I think I mentioned in my intro about my barley wine, is my whole mashing process, which is like the only part of my my brewing process on brew day that needs to be fixed. And I was watching a video of a brew day by Jason Toes, I believe, recently when he brewed a wit beer, and he was, and I asked him about his home, how he does the mash out water addition, and he explained it to me, and I didn't know that you have to drain most, if not all, your first, like, Vorloff, and then drain most, if not all, your first runnings, and then mash out, get the grains up to 168, and then Vorloff again and take your second runnings while you fly sparge. So I could have, even though 68% efficiency is okay for a big beer like my barley wine, I feel that if I had done that, I would have gotten much better efficiency, from my barley wine. So to get 68% from a huge grain bill from my second batch is great, but I want to really refine my brew days at every batch, especially now that, I have more, enough equipment to do that with my stir plate and my fridge and everything like that. In terms of upcoming videos, I have one video left of the St. Full Yen series. I know some of you may think that I've been transitioning to being a beer reviewer, but that's not true. I'm only going to be video reviewing a few beers here and there, and mainly for artisanal imports and those Belgian beers. Maybe the occasional American or British or German beer, but mainly for the artisanal imports beer reviews, just to show you some pretty cool Belgian beers. But I really do want to focus on home brewing / more creative craft beer videos. So two videos that are definitely coming up. One is filmed and one's gonna be filmed this coming Sunday. So the first video, which is already filmed, is a video about cask ales with my friend Alex Hall, who's the New York City cask ale expert, who was trained in England. He's from England originally, and he came to America in like 1999, I believe. The correct info will be in the video because I interviewed him for part of the video. But we went really in depth about cask ales and how to serve them at the bar and what are the different parts of the cask engine, and we tapped a cask. So cask ale is a really, I love the tradition behind beer, and I feel cask ale is a great way to showcase that. So it's going to be a long, probably 25-minute video just on cask ales and what makes them special and what the future he thinks of cask ale is in America and worldwide. And it should be really cool. And in terms of homebrewing videos, I'm going to an event at my local homebrew shop, Bitter and Esther's, this coming Sunday for a hops class, where they're going to go through the ins and outs of different types of hops, what hops roll in the brewing process, stuff like that. And then the second part of the class, or the presentation, is going to be a tasting of 8 different single hop beers that they've brewed. I think 1-gallon batches of 8 different hops, to showcase, some bittering hops, some aroma hops, some hops that are good for flavoring and aroma, and vice versa, whatever. And it should be really cool. So I got a press ticket for that, because otherwise it's $70 per class, which is definitely worth it because it's a 3-hour class, plus you get to taste a bunch of beers. But I got a press ticket, so I'm going to get there early, do some filming in the beginning, film throughout the class, and then compile it into a video, and for you guys, just to give you guys an inside look at hops, because I definitely want to learn more and share what I learned with you guys. So upcoming in 2014, beyond those 2 videos, I want to brew as much as I can. If I get more fermenters or new equipment, or then I'll brew more. but I don't want to like say I'm going to brew X, Y, and Z in 2014. I just want to continue brewing, whether I brew 10 batches or 20 batches in 2014 or more. I just want to continue brewing and brewing beers that'll help me learn a lot about different beer styles, about different brewing methods. And because I don't keg and I only have a small fermentation fridge, I can't brew as much as some of you might be able to. Like have 3 beers going at once, for example. Like I live in an apartment, I don't have a house, so it's a little more difficult to have a bunch of things going at once, especially when you live on a 5th floor apartment in New York City. So I'll brew as much as I can. I'll learn more about craft beer, about home brewing. I should note that you should look at my blog because I finally updated my beers tried list again. And last night I had beer number 1450. So I'm hoping to get past the 1500 beers tried mark sometime in the beginning of 2014. Not to get to the number, but not just because of the number, but because I want to continue developing my palate and start to really take notes when I try different beers, not only in the tasting notes, but to see how my palate reacts to different beer styles, and to continue trying beer styles that, if I look at my list and I haven't tried so many of them, to purposely buy beers from those styles to really test my palate. So if I want to brew beers from them in the future, I'll know a little bit more about what I want to put in the beer. I want to brew more traditional styles in 2014 and not do as much crazy stuff like adding coffee and cocoa nibs. I've kind of I let go of the idea of ever brewing adding coffee again just because it's so crazy. Like with this beer, I added a really fruity coffee, and then once I bottle conditioned the beer, it doesn't taste fruity at all to me. So it just tastes like a straightforward general coffee stout flavor, which I specifically asked Zach from Chain Reaction Brewing Company to send me a cool blend of coffee to put in the beer and see how it come out. But the beer totally changed in bottle conditioning, and unless I find a way to really harness that coffee flavor after bottle conditioning the beer, I'm really not going to brew with coffee again. I'll just add more roasted and dark malts to get a more espresso coffee-like flavor, and then see how it comes out once it's bottle conditioned. So in 2014, I'll stick to traditional styles, and if I do something extra, it'll be simple soaked oak chips or oak cubes, or like dry hopping, so like stuff that's like very easy to know that you're gonna put in X additions in secondary and get Y out. So yeah, so I know I've been rambling on for a while. This is some of the stuff that you have to look, that I want to be able to share with you in 2014 and beyond, and I hope to see you in future Homebrew Wednesdays and, of course, future homebrewing videos.